My name is Paul Brady. I'm a Irish-based film writer, director, and I work in the movie and TV industry. The genesis of that story basically actually happened uh, 2004. It was just down to a point where I kind of listened to some piece of music from a trailer for a film, and it triggered this particular scene in the short story because it's based on a short story by a famous Irish novelist called James Plunkett. Now, I had studied this short story in school when I was about 10, and I remember reading it, and I hadn't thought about it since. And for some reason or another, I suppose it's a bit like when it's moment of conception, that bit of music just triggered it. Now, I think there's more to it than that. My father, the story I didn't realize until later on. The story is about a young little girl that begs for food on the streets of Dublin during World War Two. And the little girl, okay, was from a part of the inner part of the city where it was quite depraved and there was a lot of poverty. And I didn't know growing up that was the stories my father told of his life when he was in the 30s and 40s growing up in Dublin. He didn't have shoes on his feet like that young little girl, and they had a life of poverty, but they basically worked hard for what they had, and there was a great sense of community. It definitely is one of those moments in your life where someone said you'll have at least 5 big moments in your life, whatever they are, whether it be a death or a marriage or whatever it is, the moments you think they are, and Janey was definitely one of those because it started the ball rolling on me getting my act together. Right, this is what you're going to do. You're going to write and direct. This is what you're going to do, and you have to do. And looking back now as well, it takes years to launch careers. And I was very much realistic that it would take time. I went back to work in film I went to work. It wasn't actually until about a few years later I actually got to work in film as a designer, as a graphics. Which was my first real proper education into how the cogs of the bigger movies get made, the studio movies and TV shows. And that was invaluable to me because I got to learn pretty much, I suppose in a lot of ways, that was my college. I got to really understand and read a lot of scripts. I got to meet a lot of very talented people, ask their advice. I got to see how a lot of the art department worked and had that basically integrated into production itself, into the camera department, every single part of it. My hands are all over it, and it was around that time as well that I literally said to myself, right, it's time to go back to start directing and writing again. And I had connected with an agent in Los Angeles that had won an award there in a few years prior, the Hollywood Film Awards, and they wanted to represent me, and so we then started on this relationship. They basically started getting commissions for me to write feature films for TV. It was a big deal. I mean, I was very much honored to be a part of the festival. It was a little bit daunting as well because I was going over to a city where other filmmakers were aspiring filmmakers, and I had a wonderful time because I met other film directors and writers like myself. We were literally wandering into each other, and from different places, from Belgium, France, Italy, and America. And we all just kind of really got on well, sat down in a cafe, talking about their films, supporting each other, going to each other's screenings. And it was a real education in regards to understanding the way festivals and award ceremonies are, so, I mean, I think at the time, my film, I think it was only one or two films that screened in the main auditorium there. I think the rest of them were on the other places. So it was quite a thing to see a film up on a big screen. I have to say, it was kind of one of those very proud moments because you think about, oh, I'd love to have a film in a cinema and I'd love to see it up there. And This was that first time I've ever experienced that, so it was very important to me. I think the story of Janey is a very universal story of poverty and people who struggle and people who help each other out in times of struggle. I've been very fortunate, I suppose, having another career as a graphic designer in film and TV. And the wonderful thing about it, I see, as I said to somebody that, you know, just being on a film set, just being in a department, I'm happy. You know, like being writing and directing makes me extraordinarily more happy. But working on even somebody else's shows, it doesn't matter, that you're still making entertainment and you're learning. And the most recent one I worked on was a TV show called Video Nasty, and it was one of those experiences that I absolutely loved. There's only two real big experiences I loved working on as a designer, which was Ripper Street season 2, which is all about post Jack the Ripper London for the BBC, and this one also for the BBC called Video Nasty, set in the 80s, and it was a series around a group of teenagers and the movie industry. You know, essentially their love of film, even though it was kind of video nasties, but it was still touches off having to recreate VHS tapes of the 80s and posters of movies, old movies, and Ripper Street was something I loved, that era of Victorian London, because I had grown up, and I think it was the 100th anniversary of Jack the Ripper, and I think as a child, the first things you watch as a kid, they sit with you for the rest of your life. Even whatever music you listen to, they sit with you for the rest of your life. It kind of makes an impression. There were two that I really loved, and I learned a lot from Ripper Street, and any experience I learned over the years I brought to Video Nasty. But you react to the material. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get to, is that the material in Ripper Street and Video Nasty was something I responded strongly to because I could identify with the era, but also the storylines I thought were very strong. And in working on all of the series over the years, I've been able to take from that and understand and learn the structure of a TV series. Well, I suppose there's a couple of sources. There's IMDb, I suppose you look up where people and what they're doing. The work I'm doing at the moment, I'm going to be posting stuff on a new website that's going to be going live soon, so they can kind of see what my latest, you can actually see some of the films and some of the work I'm posting. But a lot of the stuff you're doing in development, you don't really kind of post because it's still, it's for, development guys and that kind of. But a website I'm going to be posting live with my YouTube channel. I'll be able to kind of send you on details of that and be able to see everything that I've done so far. And I remember, this is funny, right? I remember I was watching Mr. Beast. He's smart, he's a young guy, he's created such a great platform, and he's an inspiration to a lot of young YouTubers out there, right? But if you look at his early, like there's a video, that was a documentary on him, and I showed him when he was 10, when he's 11, he's 12, he's in his room, his mom, I'm making a video, but his advice that he gave, and if you listen closely to most successful filmmakers and people in any business, they'll tell one little line of truth that is the backbone of everything he said. And this is how I feel about filmmaking and Spielberg and all these other people I look up to, right? Don't focus on trying to create as many viewed videos as you can. Make one really good one and the numbers will be there. And it's the same I say for anybody, and the same advice I said earlier on about the Ridley Scott quote. Do one thing, do it so well that people will stand up and they'll look at it and go, wow. And I'm working on a presentation at the moment, right, for another feature film. And it can be sometimes overwhelming, the amount of work that has to be done on it. When you work on a story, when you work on a script, what makes it so good, right, is how you feel about the subject. If you're going to make a horror film, right, I'm sure there's about 1,000 horror films out there, but what makes your horror film unique? What makes it unique is something you feel very strongly about it.